Okay, then in 1998, the NBA came calling. Now, up to that point, was the NBA like a serious goal? Or was it just like, okay, I'm playing streetball, I'm doing this and one thing, and the NBA is just a distant memory?
No, so through my whole travels, the NBA was always the goal. From the time I was introduced to basketball, I'm in those playgrounds by myself. Imagine myself being Dr. J. I imagine myself being Isaiah Thomas. I'm imagining myself being Larry Bird, right? Magic Johnson, all these guys. You know, I wore 11 my whole life because I wanted to be Isaiah Thomas. So the NBA was always my thing. I always knew how to play the game of basketball the right way. The streetball stuff was that's just what we do in New York City because all the tournaments was out in the park. In the summertime, most of the tournaments in the playground. It wasn't until I went to other cities and states and I see that most of their tournaments is inside indoors, even in the summertime. You know what I'm saying? But in New York City, even as little kids, your tournament is considered a playground streetball game because it's outside the park. So, but my whole time, all I want to do is make it to NBA, right? All my coaches I had since I was a kid, they knew that's where I belonged. They knew I had the talent and skill set to make it there. It was just doing the right thing in the classroom. 1998, I didn't have the best year as a team at Fresno State. We didn't have the best year. But, you know, I averaged double-digit points, 11 points, I averaged 7 assists, 7.5 assists. So from a point guard standpoint, that's pretty solid by college standpoint. You know, most of the time a point guard might average a lot of points, or they probably averaging 4 assists, or they might average 12 or 13 points. They average about 7, 8 assists. So I was right there on the cusp of a solid to good point guard that should be recognized by NBA scouts. I went to Chicago pre-draft camp, like all the kids still do today, and I turned it out. I mean, it was some of the best guards, some of the best players that obviously played in the NBA that was drafted that year, or probably caught on the NBA team. If they weren't drafted, they were in the NBA. Right when I got drafted, the 39th pick to the Milwaukee Bucks in 1998.
Right, you're in the second round.
Yeah.
So how did it feel at that point to really be working towards this your entire life from 5 years old, and then they announced that you're getting drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks?
It was a dream come true. I was in LA. I was in Marina Del Rey at some bar. I wanted to be by myself. So I was having a cheeseburger, a Coca-Cola, and I'm sitting at the bar. The first round goes by. Now remember, I declared for draft as a junior. The first round goes by, and I'm sitting there like, uh-oh. I might have made the biggest mistake. So the first round goes by, I'm thinking, okay, plan B. I can either go to the CBA, because they had the CBA then, there was no G League, that CBA, or you go overseas. I'm thinking, they had cut away to a commercial after the first couple picks of the second round. They come back and they say, while we were away, the Milwaukee Bucks took Rafer Alston, and I just yell in the restaurant. I'm like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So now you got all these people now, you familiar with California, you know Marina Del Rey. These people looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with him? They think I'm high. They're like, what is wrong with him? So I turn, see the people looking at me, I said, oh, y'all not even looking at the TV. You don't even understand. So as a person to the right of me, you could see they were getting irritated. So I had maybe $140. I said, look, I'm gonna pay for mine. I'm gonna pay for his too, because I see I just messed his day up by yelling in his ear. So I had paid for the guy's food, and he's like, I mean, thank you. You didn't have to. I'm like, don't worry about it. So I run out. I had a rental-car. I run out to the rental-car, go back to the hotel, and I'm just like, yeah. And I call my friend Eddie Loud. I'm saying, yo, man, this has happened. You know. So then the Bucks call me. Obviously, when they draft you, a representative of the Bucks, they call you, man. And and that's how my draft day went. It wasn't like I was sitting in with my family. I was at the draft in the green room. Now, mind you, the draft is in New York City. I'm from New York City, so I should have been there. Even if I wasn't going to be a first round pick, I still should have been in New York with my family. But, when you make those type of decisions, you come to the decision to leave early, and you're not sure if you made the right move. I just wanted to be by myself, and if it didn't go right, I could get my thoughts together. But if it went well, man, I was happy to be. It's a dream come true to get your name called. Everything flashes before you when they call your name. the whole travel, all the ups and downs in your basketball journey, your life, even though you're still young. I was 21, about to turn 22 that summer. Everything just flat for you. He's like, man, it all worked, right? So everything comes to fruition. But at that time, I knew I still had so much work to do because at that time, second round picks, they weren't giving you guaranteed money. At that time, second round picks, the salary was like 220 some thousand, 236,000, something like that. I think my first contract was like 236,000. So at those times, you're like, you got to make the team. So that's what happened. So I had to as I'm jumping for joy, I had to bring it back down, realize, hey, you got to go in there and do what you need to do.
Right. And you became the first streetball player to actually go to the NBA. And, we were talking before the cameras turned on, we were talking about, for example, Pee Wee Kirkland, who I'd interviewed a while back. Yeah. Like, he was good enough to go to the NBA from streetball, but he was making too much drug money at the time to really bother.
Right. And so growing up, they told me about the Pee Wee Kirklands, the Joe Hammonds, the Earl Manigos, because I come to learn about them, one, not just by playing in Rucker Park. I come to know of them because I was heading down that path. I wasn't in the game, the street game, heavy as Pee Wee was nowhere near that. But by not taking care of my business in high school, the basketball world in New York City was starting to let me know, hey, you're going to end up like your basketball career is going to end up being like theirs. The woulda, coulda, shoulda beens. Even though for us in New York City, we still glorify their basketball career. Because if you talk to me about Pee Wee Kirkland, I'm like, man, they said he was a bad boy. So I'm going to look up to him regardless because he was bad with that basketball. Throughout my time in Rucker Park, I always see Joe Hammond, and I always give him a hug. Joe, come give me a hug because playground legends respect playground legends. And again, I grew up in environments to understand what they were going through. But like I said, Pee Wee had a chance. They offered him a contract to go in there, but making that kind of money out there, he's making way more money than the guys that's playing in the NBA. So at that time, I could only imagine the decision to say, nah, I don't want that contract. I can only imagine. At that time to him, and it wasn't worth it. Probably to him, the money value was worth it. The game was worth it. To play against some of the best players in the league, he probably understood that. I'm sure he told you that playing against those guys was going to be worth it. But to play against them and to make that type of money, and I can make that money in 2 hours. I can only imagine the thought process, man.